I used to be a rugby player before I joined sprinting. Basically, I started running in 2016 after my high school years. But before then, I was playing rugby. I still love rugby. I'm a fan, like rugby was everything. That was a sport that I fell in love with for the first time. I was good in rugby in Form 3 and Form 4, basically because of the speed. So I remember the love for rugby started when we were playing some inter-class games, and then I was selected because I was just running around, kukimbilia food. So the class decided, you're going to be a winger. So anytime they just created space, threw me the ball, I catch it and just run. So I scored so many tries. I remember I took the class to the finals, which they have never even reached. So that's how I fell in love with rugby. So the rugby coach called me and told me, you have a talent, you can come, I'll coach you. So I was open-minded, I was ready to learn. I joined the school team, did some homework here and there, and that's how I fell in love with rugby. And in 2014, that's when I finished my high school. I was called to play for the under-20 Kenyan 7th team. So that's when I came to Nairobi. That's for 2015 now. So the trial didn't happen, so I ended up just being a single and mingle guy around Nairobi. So the 2015 was just done and dusted, because during that time, we could stay like a year before we could enroll to the university. So just free, and then I go to the university. So I joined the university team in machine for 1 semester, but then it was too tough for me to play in the Kenya Cup, because Kenya Cup is on another level. It's not like high school rugby. Kenya Cup is tough because people are playing for money. So it was a bit tough for me. So I dropped down. I went to the championship level. I went and joined Mount Kenya University Rugby. They were training at Railways. So while there, I met someone who used to compete before, who used to be an athlete before, but he retired and went back to rugby. So the guy told me, you have so much speed, you can do well in sprints. So I never even imagined there was sprints in Kenya, because I've never heard of sprinting in Kenya. So then I downloaded a calendar of events. Registration is free. So I went for my first event in Mumias. And for me, it was sort of a trial and error, because I wanted to be a full-time pro rugby player. I have never imagined me being a sprinter. So I went there and I won the event, luckily. So that's how it built up, and it got me to where I am today. Yeah, these years I had a lot of highs, because it was my first time doing the 60 meters indoor games. And 60 meters is like 6 seconds of running. So that was my first time doing it. I had a dream of competing at the 60 meter indoors. So breaking the national record and setting the national record for the 60 meters was one of the highlights that I had. And I'm now the record holder for the 60 meters in the country. So from there, came back. I ran the fastest time in the world then, 10.00 in February. After that, it was broken by some guy. And then I came again and set another fastest time in the world here at Kasarani, 9.85, winning that Kipkeino Classic in front of the president. That was another high. And then I went down to Mauritius for the African Championships. That was another high, winning it. Now I'm the African record holder and the African champ. That's another high. And then after that, came back, went to Oregon, went for the Birmingham Games, the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham. I won the event that has never been won by a Kenyan for over 50 years. So that was another high. And the awards, of course, the Sports Influence of the Year. I won the Sports Athlete of the Year in January. I was given the Athlete of the Month for the month of September. Not September, but August. And you see, like all that, being on paper from January to September, every day, every month, mostly like 2 weeks every month, I'm just there, people talking about me. So those are the highs that I've had this year. The lows, of course, are there. You remember the visa issue when I got to my race like 2 hours before, and it was like traveling through 3 time zones. Went to Doha and then go to Seattle and then going to Oregon. So that's like 22 hours of flight. And then getting there, alight the plane, head straight to the field. So that was a very big low for me. That was one. And then another one, I had an injury before I went for the Mauritius Games. I remember we cancelled our trip in Europe. I was supposed to stay there for like 3 weeks, but we cut it after 1 week because I had an oblique muscle strain. So we couldn't continue the games with the tour in Europe. So that was another low, I mean. So for an athlete, injuries are something that really affect us mentally. And so long as if you don't have the mental strength, then you may not have the ability to handle all that. So that was another very big low for me this season. But all the same, the highs are more than the lows. So we thank God for the great year we've had. And now we're preparing for the next. The year is already over. Next week we're in December already. So for me, it's done. So looking forward to next year. I've had so many challenges growing up and coming up as a sprinter. To the level that I am, I've had to go through a lot of challenges. And all those challenges have been teaching me and making me stronger every day. I always say whatever doesn't kill you will make you stronger. So I always just find myself out of these situations better than I was before the situation came in. And to me, it's all about the urge of not giving up, the urge of picking up yourself after you fall down. It doesn't matter how many times you fall, but the urge of you picking yourself up and continuing with the journey, that's what matters to me the most. So, and also I thank God for my mental strength, because it's it that has given me everything that I have today, because God gave me a very strong mentality. I don't care who you are, so long as we're on the same line, I'm better than you. If I beat you, I'm better than you. If you beat me, I'll come back stronger next time. So that's the mentality that I carry all along. And I tell people, there are no days that will last more than 24 hours. The bad days, the good days, they will end after 24 hours. The sun will rise and will set. That's it. You don't have to carry your problems the next day. If you have a problem, just sleep it off if you can. But people tend to take other options which are not necessary. I'll start with a normal day, like now. We're having competitions in like 5 months, so not much of a pressure. We're just coming here to make sure that the body stays at its peak, the body stays, fit. So no pressure. It's easy to ende home ulale or ende watch Netflix. Try to make your mind don't think about athletics a lot, because there's nothing much going on. But now coming into a day in the life of Omanyala during competition, that's when there's a lot of pressure. You see, like a week to 2 weeks to the event, you find like all the newspapers are writing about you, all the articles. Just wake up in the morning, scrolling through your Facebook, and you see an article, someone has written something about you. So there's always so much pressure building around big races. You see, like you're hyping someone with an Olympic champion, Commonwealth champion, world champion are coming together to compete. You see those type of pressures. There's a lot of pressure always. So I always have confidence when I go to the press conferences, because for us 100 meters is like boxing. We have to be aggressive. I have to tell you that I'll beat you. I have to tell you you're not going to beat me in this race. So that's how we build our confidence. But then when you go back home and just look yourself in the mirror and just ask yourself, what are you talking about in the press conference? So those type of pressures. Sometimes you end up sleeping and you just wake up in the middle of the night and you remember, man, you have a task on the weekend. So there's always a lot of pressure. But the moment I get into the field, the moment I step into the field, everything disappears. So long as the moment I see the fans, the moment I see people watching, the moment I see the big screens, everything disappears. It's now me and that finish line. So I don't care who is watching. It all comes down to me. It's me against these competitors. It's me on this lane. So it's me now running against the time. So during that moment, there's zero pressure, zero pressure. But before that, a lot of pressure, a lot of tension. Sometimes you eat, but you don't eat much because there's, a lot of thoughts and what will be the outcome of the race. So, but generally, when there's no much pressure on a race, I don't feel always the pressure, because you just know you're going to win. So there's no much pressure, there's no much adrenaline. So for me, those races are like training. So I don't take much. I don't put myself through too much because of such kind of races. So I love pressurizing races because I love the adrenaline. Such races gives me the adrenaline. So yeah. Nah, because sometimes you might get into the blocks and you remember, I did not do that ritual. That will crush you. Yeah, so for me, I don't have any pre-race rituals. So long as I come, mimi Mluya, kienyeji, tuingie kwa race, tukimbie, tukimbizane. Mtu atawin, I win. But mimi leo ni beat. That's the mentality I always go to the race with. I always run my races before I come to compete. And running my races, I mean, from the start to the end, to the interviews, to how I'll celebrate, I always do that before I come into the race. So anytime I come to the race, whatever I do in the race, I've already thought about it. So when I come there, it's just my mind is blank, and I'm just repeating the cues that I had when I was thinking about my races. I run my races more than 500 times before I really actualize it. So I win the races in my mind, I lose the races in my mind, because there's always two sides of a coin. You might end up, maybe there's a false start, and maybe there's something just happened. I always do that in my races in my mind before I now come to actualize it. So anytime I come to win, I win the race, I've already lived that moment. So I've already thought about how I'll talk the interviews, how I'll celebrate, how I'll do a lap of honor. So all that I always premeditate. So when I come in, when you see me doing all that stuff, I've already premeditated them. So not much of a thought after races. I look at the time, I do the thing that I've thought about. Most of the time, the celebration is always different. I'm that kind of athlete that I want to keep relationships. I want to understand what it takes to be a champion. So I always maintain the relationships. We talk once in a while with Justin Gatlin, Johan Blake, Akani Simbine, my biggest rival in Africa. We do talk once in a while. We do talk with Fred Kadley, the world champ. So I just want to understand. I always want to see, not even just track athletes. You'll see me with Kipchoge, you'll see me with musicians who have made it in life, you'll see me with different people in the society. So I don't like confining myself in the athletics world alone. I love hearing what other people have to say, hearing what other people have gone through to be where they are. So for me, I always try to maintain the relationships with all these other guys. Yeah. Yeah, the name itself is like a pass to so many offices and so many gates. So yeah, so with that, I've received sponsorships, endorsements, talking, opportunities to go and give people talks, and that comes with some cash. So at least it gives you an avenue of making cash up outside of track, because people want to associate themselves with you. So these doors have opened, and sometimes I get into a mall, I get into a place where you want to eat lunch. There's a time I went to one of the stores to eat, and this guy said, your lunch is free. And I went there with like 10 guys. So it was like a lunch worth more than 20K. So this guy said, your name has paid your lunch. So such like stuff. I mean, there's so many privileges, which I really appreciate. And thanks to everybody supporting me. Thanks to all the fans around the world who, keep encouraging me every time, receiving the DMs and people encouraging you, telling you, you need to break this record, you need to break that, you need to win this, you need to win that. So it really encourages me. We're in talks with the government, which I really don't want to disclose now, but I'm sure they'll come out to light. But to me, I'll dwell mostly on sprinters. I don't want to leave a country where, after I retire, because I'm sure I'll retire at some point, a break of like 30 or 20 years before there's another sprinter. So to me, my biggest dream is to have an industry for sprints in Kenya. So we're still talking with the government to see how we can develop a camp and base a camp somewhere and train athletes. There are so many people who can run, who can sprint. So the only problem they have is financial. Someone cannot come to Nairobi, or someone cannot afford the training facilities, but if we give these opportunities to them, I'm sure we'll have so many people coming up. I can't credit to one, because sprints, it's me who is doing it, but there's a team around me. There's a team of a coach who has been there all along since I started, and every time he tells me, you have to wake up and go for training. Because the coach will go to the training ground, so you can't miss to go for the training, and the coach is there. So it gives me the urge to go and train. There's a physiotherapist who makes sure that my muscles are aligned, my muscles are no injuries. We prevent injuries. So that's a very important part of this career. there's a psychologist who makes sure that your mind is straight, you know. You might end up, sometimes you find things coming into your mind. There's so many things, you know, into your mind. So the psychologist comes and helps with that. And there's also a nutritionist. So the nutritionist makes sure that you get the right diet for you to fuel yourself in the workouts. So that's another important role. So all these guys are playing a role as far as my career is concerned. So I can't say that one is doing a better job than the other. All of these guys are, it's like a cloth. You can't, they are very tiny strings, but they play a very vital role. Yeah, by the way, I forgot the highs of this year. I'm the national champion for 200 meters also. So yeah, I did 200 meters. I was coming up really well because I'm like 0.2 seconds from the national record. That's what I want to break. So I was doing the 200 meters, but I got an injury. Remember I told about the oblique strain injury. So I couldn't run the curve because it was a bit painful. So next year we're training for that. Like you've seen, my session today has been like 200 times 12. Those are 200 meters times 12. So we were doing that. So we're prepping for next season. I'm sure you'll see me in international stages 300 meters. So just chill, sit back, and wait for the days to come. I'm one, people always say they want to be like Omanyala because they see the success. They don't see the backside of it. You know, in the podium, there's a photo. Omanyala is at the top, there's number 2, number 3, but behind that podium, there's a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of sacrifices, a lot of hard work, a lot of persistence. I tell people, I give you 1 week in my life, I'm sure you won't get to Wednesday because it's so hard, you know, like the training, the sacrifices. You have to get out of a training, you go for a meeting somewhere because of course you can't miss that meeting because of 1 or 2 reasons. So there's so much around that. But what I want to tell people is hard work, patience, discipline, and persistence. That's one thing that people should hold on to. It has really helped me because I was so patient. I started this thing in 2016, but it took me 5 years to break the limits. So if at all I couldn't have patience, I couldn't get to where I am today. I couldn't be where I am. I couldn't be Omanyala today. Nobody could have known about Omanyala because the challenges were too many, and every time I could sometimes sleep, wake up, go and train 3-4 hours a day in the morning and 4 hours in the evening. You imagine, you're training all this, but you're not going to compete. So you see all these things that were happening. Nobody could have gone on with it for like 5 years. After 2 years, man, you're done. I can't continue doing that. So for me, it was about persistence, hard work, and patience, and the urge of not giving up, because you know life has a way of giving us so many hard blows that you may think you'll never recover, but the grit in you is what will make it very important. To me, it's all about, what matters to me is the urge to get up every day, even if you're so down, but you wake up, get to that training ground, hit that workout, go back home in pain, but still come back again tomorrow. So that's what has really carried me through. So I want to urge young people in this country that there are no shortcuts. If you want success, please just work hard in whatever you're doing, and just be persistent, and just be disciplined in what you're doing, and never give up, because I believe doors and windows will open some days, and things will flow in, blessings will flow in, and above all, God first, because He's the one who's given us the talents. He can take it away anytime. So make sure that you thank God for everything that you have, the gift of life. You wake up today. Some people, they have a lot of money now, but they can't even wake up from their beds because of their sicknesses or health issues. So every day you wake up, just thank God for everything. Thank God for the life. And then piga hustle yako. One day, vitu zita come through.